So today we're going to be talking about no one else but Nigel Farage, who you might have strangely noticed, or you may have not noticed. He's gone awfully quite silent, except for a couple, shall we say, of recent parting comments that we're going to go over. However, you might be saying, "Bowler Hat Man, why are we talking about Farage? Isn't he politically done at this point?" And I say yes, you are right. He is now politically obsolete, which is why his parting comments are really crucial to go over, because it shows what Nigel Farage is and what he always was. He was a political opportunist who really had nothing. I mean, let's put it this way. If Farage had been a member of the Conservative Party, there is no absolute doubt in my mind today he would be in Boris Johnson's cabinet. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that is where he would be. Someone, or somewhere where he could be loud and be heard. The thing with Farage has always been the thing with Farage, is that he likes to be loud and he likes to be heard. He is the atypical rabble-rouser. He likes to get the populace whipped up. His big problem, and it's something that he himself does not want to be, hence why he always goes for positions where he is not in any sort of accountability whatsoever. But you may be saying, wait, he's an MEP. Isn't he in some way accountable to the British public? You would be further from the truth. You see, every other country reports what goes on in the European Parliament. It is quite important. And something that you may have noticed has been overly lacking, especially during our time being in the EU. Now, why is that critical? Because every time you've ever seen a clip of Farage, it has never been from the direct source of the BBC. It has always been from predominantly a foreign European source, because they report what's going on. Over here, not so much. And of course, in the European Parliament, Farage can make big, sweeping speeches that politically sound and play good over here, but in reality leave all the Europeans scratching their heads going, what the hell is he on about in this talk that has nothing to do with what we are discussing? Another famous point of example of the position where he has had actual power and then done nothing with it, and used essentially British fishermen as pawns in his game, is when he was on the Fisheries Council. Out of 63 meetings, he only ever turned up to one, and then did nothing and said nothing, and then never turned up to the rest, which, again, politically going over it, just quickly the side notes, it took a TV chef to be able to get the representation, taking a petition to the European Parliament to get the changes that Nigel Farage had the power to change. So, and once again, that is not something that is well known, because it is not reported in the UK media. That actually came from, I think it was it was either a Dutch or a Danish newspaper that reported on it. That's why we know about it. And now you have, obviously, building up to the referendum, you may remember the video we did a couple of weeks ago about the deal Nigel Farage wishes that he could forget. The deal that he wanted to propose as the manifesto for Leave that he was putting forward when he was trying to lead that group. The whole plan was for a 30-year separation period, of which there would even be a second referendum. And it also included membership of the single market and the customs union to sort of grandfather us out over like this long period of time. Now, why on earth does Nigel Farage not want a second referendum, even though he has said multiple times in the past, and even on paper to a manifesto he put his name to have one? But that doesn't matter at the moment, because obviously leading up to the referendum, Nigel Farage was constantly saying that we have all the power, which, as we know now and are about to all learn, the truth of that is that we don't have any power whatsoever, really, when it comes to these negotiations. We are a completely toothless dog. So, and of course you come up to the post-referendum up to the recent election. Farage was constantly pushing for Theresa May just to walk away and get a no deal. Why on earth was he pushing for that? Well, in reality, Farage knew it couldn't happen. He knew that there was not enough MPs to get that through. So he knew even though he pushed for it to happen, he knew it could never happen. Farage knows more than anyone else Brexit will hurt this country economically. However, it allows all his friends and all his backers who have given him money over the years to engage in disaster capitalism. Quite frankly, you wipe out the UK economically and you make it incredibly cheap to just come in and start swooping up all the bits and pieces that have been left over and have been weakened to a point where they can now buy them for a pittance. That's what Brexit really is, and trust me, when we leave, you are going to start seeing that in spades. And it is not going to be good, because they're going to buy these companies and then sell them off to make more money, and then these companies may not exist. They may even downsize even more. Some may just buy the companies and then bankrupt them to make even more money, because that's what disaster capitalism is, kids. So, yeah, we now have this funny, hilarious situation of, once again, why Nigel Farage has been so quiet, apart from these recent, shall we say, parting shots, because he's off now to America to partake in the very, very lucrative speaking circuit over there. And what were his parting comments, you might have said? Well, Farage said that Boris should pursue a deal for compromise. He needs to compromise to be able to get a deal. Yes, these were the words of Nigel Farage only last week. That is what he said. Unbelievable. How has this is the position this complete eel of a man has gone from. He has gone from campaigning to leave the European Union under very abstract terms, whatever that meant back in the day, to putting forward a manifesto to try and lead that campaign, of which there was a second referendum over 30 to 40 decades, 30 to 40 years of us remaining in the single market and customs union, again, with a second referendum to make sure that that's what people wanted, and to post-referendum to saying that we should just walk away because apparently we have all this power, to now post the most recent election to him going, Boris Johnson needs to compromise so that he can get a deal. And once again, this all plays into what Nigel Farage essentially is. He's a rabble-rouser. And the thing of how you defeat people like that is you get him in a TV studio, you get out a hammer, you get out some nails, and you just whack him in. Over every single time. You start to nail down his positions, and when he starts to eel and wriggle his way out, he can't, because then you expose him as what he is. He's a complete eel. He's a slimy, eel of a man who does nothing but try and rabble people up without presenting real solutions to very real problems. And why has he done all this? Because when he's gone over to America and he's made his money, should anything happen to Brexit, let's say it all goes tits up, which it will, every expert out there is pretty much forecasting this is what's going to happen. Economically, it is not going to be good for the UK. So when it inevitably does go bad, he can just turn around and just go, oh, but Boris, I said you should compromise to get a good deal. You didn't compromise enough, or you didn't drive a hard bargain enough to get the best Brexit deal. It's so that all options are open to Nigel Farage, just like in the referendum, where pretty much when you went to, shall we say, tick leave, it pretty much meant everything, bar what the Leave campaign actually said. So there we have Nigel Farage once again being very, shall we say, slippery like an eel, and just slithering off. Hopefully this time for good, because quite frankly, you know, I wouldn't cry if Nigel Farage suddenly fell down the stairs and, shall we say, had a very tragic accident. I wouldn't be shed a tear at all for that accident. May it happen soon in the future. But anyway, on from that, Nigel Farage he's just a complete con artist. He's an opportunist, and quite frankly, his true believers, it doesn't matter, because so long as we've said he can. Now he's said that, he can go, oh, but you see, I said you should have gone for a deal, because in reality, Nigel doesn't want there to be a no deal, even though he's been saying for the past 3 years that's exactly what we should be doing, because we, quote, hold all the power and cards. If that was the case, why isn't he still saying that now that the Conservatives have a full majority? Because he doesn't want that to happen. He still wants to ride that gravy train from the British public and be sort of known as some sort of Nigel folk hero who can still come in and lead the charge should things go wrong. So maybe one day, as I said at the start of this video about how Nigel Farage might do very well in the Conservative Party, who knows, that may very well be, unfortunately, one day become true, but who knows, that would be in the far off future, and hopefully, accidents permitting, we'll have to see. But anyway, that's the tale of the slippery eel that is Nigel. So, do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Obviously, there are going to be people who think we're wrong. But yeah, how do we continue to combat this? It's quite simple. We keep on telling people, you were conned, you were tricked. Our economic fortunes should always lie and be within Europe. I am a Remainer, I am a Rejoiner, and we were always right. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who are going to have to swallow a very big piece of humble pie soon and admit that they were wrong.